everyone, how are you doing today? Well, this is going to be my lowest effort video in quite some time. In fact, solo effort. I don't have a video for you today. I thought I would give a bit of a life update and do this tag that I was tagged recently. And neither of them require visual elements, and I would usually try to put some together, but I don't have my camera set up right now, and I'm about to leave on a work trip, and life is kind of at that level of busyness right now, but I did want to do this tag, and I know a lot of people just kind of play my videos in the background anyways, so just feel free to wander, to wash your dishes, whatever you do when you listen to these things. Okay, so first of all, happy birthday, The Great Gatsby, 100 years. On my community tab, is it still called the community tab? I posted my latest review of The Great Gatsby. This was from 2021. And I feel like, so when I originally read the book when I was younger, I think I gave it like 3 stars, 3.5 stars. I've watched a couple of movie adaptations of it, and then I read the book again in 2021. I've really grown to appreciate the book more as I get older, and mainly because I've been reading it in a different way. I think just appreciating the darker elements of the story, the mysterious and macabre elements of The Great Gatsby kind of illuminates the message of the story. And I would say the message of the story is as much about the dangers of obsession and some perhaps unknown traumatic past for Jay Gatsby, either at war or in his childhood. I feel like the story is as much about those things as it is about his wealth and his delulu after he gets really rich and everything. But what I'm trying to say is I think the story has its origins in before he got rich. And I think the book is such an interesting look at, what happens when you don't realize the dangers of your own obsessions. So anyways, I'm not here to ramble about The Great Gatsby, but I just want to mention that 100 years old now. Pretty cool. And I've liked other books by Fitzgerald as well. I think my favorite by him is probably This Side of Paradise, but haven't read that in a little while. So what has been new with me? Well, I recently, embrace yourselves, I recently got rid of my bookcases. That's right. The bookcases that are in my what videos do we call them? Bookshelf tours. If my brain seems a little bit off today, it's because I'm running on not much sleep. Not much good sleep, I'll say that. Anyways, bookshelf tours, bookcases, yes, they are gone. I'm getting ready to move again, and this time I didn't think it was going to be feasible to move the bookcases. So they have moved on to greener pastures. And it's kind of bittersweet, but I also feel good about it. The bookcases served me really well. They were from a furniture shop near where I grew up. And so, had some sentimental value for me. But ultimately, I know there will be new bookcases in my life in the future. And, what are they? They're a place to put books. So, yes, still a moment of gratitude for my old bookcases. And so as you might be wondering, I have also been getting rid of quite a few books. I mean, I have so many left, though, and I think it's made me realize that I just need some better habits around book buying. So I've been pretty good about not buying any books this year. I don't know if I've bought any books for me. I've used the library quite a bit. I've received books as gifts, which has been wonderful. I've just realized that I love having a personal library, but it's good to have some limits around it as well. And I'm actually kind of happy I was able to get rid of so many books. And like I said, I still have so many left, so please don't be concerned or anything. Yeah, so that's been, I've just had like 2 or 3, more like 3 or 4 very large life projects going on right now. And so that's kind of just one piece of the puzzle. I have been reading, however. I picked up The Samurai by Shusaku Endo again, but then put it down again. But the 2 books I'm really enjoying right now are, one of them is an old book. It's called On the Marble Cliffs by Ernst Junger, and it's a book from, I forget the year, but Junger, I believe he lived through both World Wars. He was German. The book is this kind of fantasy fable about Hitler's rise to power, but again, very much told in this fable-like way. And I haven't really got past the introductory scenes yet. I mean, he's still setting up this world that he's building, and it's a novella, so it's not very long anyway. But yeah, I am enjoying that and intend to read a great deal of it on the plane tomorrow. And then the other book I'm really enjoying is called Checkout 19, and it's by Claire Louise Bennett, who wrote the novel Pond, which I reviewed some time ago, last summer. There are so many motorcycles outside. They're so loud. I don't know if you can hear that. Anyways, so those are the 2 books I'm reading right now, and then a book I'm reading for Lent as well with my sweet man. We do a Lenten book read along every year. We're reading Crazy Love by Frances Chan and have pretty mixed feelings about it. But, this is the last week of Lent, so gotta power through it to the end. And I will say it's been good for discussion, even if it doesn't totally resonate with us. All right, so I'm going to get into this tag. It's called The Places You'll Go, and I was tagged by Heather from Heather Reads. Thank you, Heather. I've been tagged quite a few times by Heather and others over the last 6 months or more. And I feel bad I haven't done any of the tags because I really wanted to, but just life stuff, busyness. Anyways, this tag is called The Places You'll Go, and it's kind of themed around life and these lines from a book by Dr. Seuss. And so I'm going to read through these. There's how many? There's quite a few. But I already went through earlier and kind of sketched out some answers because these are some pretty important questions. The first prompt is, which direction you choose? So again, the little quote is from Dr. Seuss. And then there's 2 parts to each section here. There's a book prompt and a life prompt. So the book prompt for which direction you choose is, what's the first place you go to in a bookstore? And of course, I can't even answer the first question straight. I have to ask, well, what kind of bookstore are we talking about? Because if I'm in a big chain bookstore like Barnes & Noble or Waterstones, I'll just probably make a beeline for the fiction section or, classic section. Actually, no, I take that back. I actually do like looking at the table displays these days because I'm just interested in book cover design. I feel like book cover design has really become a whole thing in the last decade or so. I mean, it's always been important, but I feel like it's been given even more importance in the last decade. So I enjoy looking at the table displays, trying to figure out what the theme is of each table. Sometimes they just say what the theme is, but it's just fun. It's just fun to look. If I'm going to like a small bookstore or a secondhand bookstore, then yeah, I'll still make the beeline for the fiction and classics, or sometimes I'll look at the nonfiction as well. So the life prompt for this one is, What is the biggest life decision you've made that has impacted your life? So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm in the middle of a big life decision right now, which is moving again. You know, have this channel that moves with me, because I've moved like 3 times in the last 5 years, which is funny because I never moved before that. And so, yeah, it's not just moving, but like the season of moving itself that's been a part of my life. Anyways, is this the biggest life decision I've made? Quite possibly, but you know, I think life is made up of many equally big decisions, right? One of the biggest decisions of my life that has already happened in the past is I started my old podcast. It's actually kind of fitting that I'm recording this as a podcast now, because this YouTube channel started as a podcast, which many of you may not know. This would have been 2016, 17. And I really got inspired by Rhett and Link at the time. I was big fans of them, and Roberto Blake. And so I decided to do a weekly podcast about literature, and I took it very seriously. I hosted my podcast on Libsyn, and I had an outline for each week, and I tried to be really consistent about posting the same time every week, more or less. And then I uploaded a random bookshelf tour in 2018, and then after that, there was such a surprising interest in the channel that I just started doing YouTube videos after that. There was some overlap, I think, with the podcast, maybe. I can't remember now, but eventually I just switched to YouTube. And YouTube was very important in my life because I met a lot of friends through YouTube, and it really contributed to my confidence at work, giving demonstrations and presentations, and it was quite a respite for me during the pandemic. So, very big decision. Although really I think it was more just a little decision I made that God used for something bigger. Anyways, that is a very long answer to that first question. So the next little prompt is, quote, "Too smart to go down any not so good street." Now the book side of this question is, what did you used to read that you don't read anymore? Well, I stopped reading Sherlock Holmes pastiche long ago, but there was a time I was reading a lot of it. And then I don't really read biographies as much anymore. I used to read biographies pretty regularly through the years. Just about various people. Some of you may have seen that Tesla biography I've had on my shelf. I didn't finish it, unfortunately, but I read a good chunk of it. Of course, I read so many T.E. Lawrence biographies. I had a biography of Eva Peron that I read that I thought was very interesting. Anyways, yeah. I like biographies. There's no particular reason I stopped reading them. I just have been prioritizing other things. And then the life prompt of this question is, what have you learned either as a hobby or an education that you value the most? And it's really hard to choose one, but I have to say I really value my classical music training and orchestra training. Music has kept me sane over the years in so many ways, and my years as like a 12-year-old playing in community orchestra with all different ages and personalities and quirks, I learned a lot about people in that time, and leadership, because we had a really good conductor who kind of just managed to, I don't know how he did it, but he just managed to help everyone work together and get the best sound out of a very motley crew of people. So yeah, music. And like, you know, I still play ukulele. I have a ukulele channel called Sunrise Sailor, and it's just fun. And like I said, so many of those lessons are applicable in other areas of life. So the next question or prompt is, you'll be seeing great sights. Okay, so this is where a video would have been helpful. They said pick a book with an attractive cover. I really like, and maybe this is something I can throw into the video portion here. Just one little slide. I picked out my copy of Swan's Way because I liked the cover. I don't think it's like the most beautiful cover, but it's a solid cover. It's kind of got this, I don't know, vintage style to it I like. And then life prompt for this one is, what is the most beautiful place that you've visited? I don't think I read the question properly when I first answered this, because I was going to say the place I was born, which is the Pacific Northwest. I guess to be more specific, I really love Olympic National Forest. I wasn't born right in the forest. Spoiler alert. So I have visited it, and it is my favorite place on earth, I think. And yeah. Next question. You'll be the best of the best. What do you feel confident that you know a lot about with regard to books? Well, I mean, unsurprisingly, I think I have a pretty decent knowledge of classic literature. One way I try and remember things is, and it's not really something I try consciously, this is something I just developed when I was a kid and just kept doing instinctively, but I have like a rough timeline in my head, and it's kind of a visual graph almost of like the last few centuries, and then so I can kind of locate things on the graph, not like in a photographic way, but if like somebody brings up one author, I can kind of, find my way around the timeline and think about what historical events were happening at that time and, its relation to other things. I'm a very visual person, so I have to have a mental image at least. But of course, I think the real knowledge just comes from, if you immerse yourself in something long enough, you'll remember something. I also know a lot of Sherlock Holmes trivia because I was like between 10 and 12 when I read the books and was a huge fan and just never forgot most of that. And then, yeah, I guess just connections between different authors. There's a few things I can kind of just recall about how different authors are related in some way. Okay, the life prompt part of this is, what would be your specialist subject on Mastermind? Now, Mastermind is a British game show. I've not seen it, but it's 2 minutes to answer questions on a specialized subject of your choice. And I'm assuming I would get some time to like brush up on the subject before I go on the show. So I would go with T.E. Lawrence, Lawrence of Arabia. I watched the movie years ago now. And then I was like obsessively reading books about and by him for a few years. And I've read so much of it now that I think if I just spent even a day brushing up, I could probably give a pretty good answer in 2 minutes. All right, so the next little quote here is, except when you don't. The book part of this is, and if you hear any background noise, sorry, that's just my mouse. What kinds of books do you feel you don't relate to? And of course, I'll usually say romance genre because I've read some before and I didn't care for it. I'm also not a big fan of history written for popular audiences, and I do not mean this in a snobbish way, but I just can't get into them. I don't enjoy how those books are often written as if like it's almost like a documentary script, or like there's a lot of effort to form a narrative around the topic. And if I'm being honest, I just really prefer and enjoy a more dry statement or a more academic history text. It's just honestly easier for me to follow. All right, life prompt. What is something you've stopped doing or that you've given up on? And this is going to sound cliche, but I've stopped trying to make everyone happy. I used to be polite to the point of self-sabotage, and I just don't do that anymore. I'm not rude or anything. I just, no more people pleasing. Let's see. So there's like these two other prompts, and these don't have quotes. They're just subjects. So the first one is the waiting place. Book prompt. Name a book you're excited to read that's on your TBR. Well, I mentioned earlier Claire Louise Bennett. I just learned she has a third book coming out in October called Big Kiss Bye Bye. It's some kind of romance or like study of relationships. I don't know exactly. That's my sense of it. I'm very much looking forward to it. I really like this book I'm reading by her so far. Really liked Pond, and I just like the way she writes. Life prompt. What in general are you looking forward to the most this year? Well, lots of things, but I'm most looking forward to the autumn. I should be in a much more settled place by then and starting a new life with my husband, and I'm just so looking forward to it. Life has been very exciting and nonstop for the last 3 years or so. And, I don't know what I'll do with myself when I'm not so busy, but just really excited for that time. And, maybe YouTube will pick back up by that time. Maybe I'll be making more videos. Sorry, my stomach is really making noise. I promise I ate dinner today. Not sure what's up. Okay. Last one, balancing act. Talk about balancing your time between general life and putting out content on BookTube. Ooh, well, I just am not balancing it at all. I've just been too busy. If I have any time left over from my life projects, I try to exercise and do self-care and just things that a person should do. But I do, still follow some channels on BookTube, and I have ideas for videos at various times, so yeah. And, maybe I should do some more of these, podcasts, because these are very easy for me to put out, especially if I'm not too picky about the editing. And, I don't know, it's not what I would want to do long term, but it might be good for now. In the past, I would spend easily 4 to 6 hours on BookTube stuff a week when I was really, doing my best work. And again, that was largely in the pandemic. And it really does take that long to prepare well for an episode and edit it and everything. Anyways, that's the tag. Thank you again, Heather, for tagging me. I really have enjoyed the questions on this one. And I'm not going to tag anybody, but, if you're watching this and you enjoyed the questions, please consider yourself tagged and let me know if you do it. And I should probably start getting ready for bed. I got to get up quite early in the morning. I hope to make more videos soon, and let me know what you're reading.